Hi everyone, this is our presentation on heart disease. More specifically, we are looking at who is most affected by heart disease.
So we examined Canadian data and concluded that females of the age 90 or older are most affected by heart disease as they have the highest mortality rate, as you can see over here. You can see the jerk in the graph with the females, with the number of deaths increasing rapidly with age, whereas the graph representing the males increases much more steadily, as you can see over here. This can indicate that although women are more affected by heart disease as they age, men may be at higher risk of dying from heart disease younger. And this data can be used as a method to analyze possible causes for the pattern displayed. Researchers should ask themselves, why are more women 90 and above dying from cardiovascular diseases? Or why are younger men at higher risk of dying from heart disease than women of the same age group? By posing these questions, they can assess several factors that can impact and cause these results, including stress level, cholesterol levels, impairments that develop with age, etc. And with this information, we can encourage prevention methods.
So for interesting fact number 1, we have in 2013, the average number of deaths from heart disease per 100,000 people in the US is approximately 169. That same year, the average number of deaths from heart disease per 100,000 people in the northern states of the US is approximately 160, and for the southern states, it is approximately 179.
We can see that for the spread of the data of the US as a whole, it is very large with a standard deviation of 28.41, with the number of deaths ranging between approximately 120 and 240 per 100,000 people. When calculated, it was discovered that in 2013, the mean number of deaths caused by heart disease per 100,000 people was 169.
For this particular set of data, we decided to divide it into two strata, the northern and the southern states of the US, in order to examine whether geography had an influence on the number of deaths. Here we can see that in the northern states, the spread of the data is smaller. It has a standard deviation of around 21.2, ranging from approximately 130 and 210 deaths per 100,000 people. When calculated, the northern states had a mean of 160 deaths per 100,000 people. On the other hand, the southern states had a greater spread of data with a standard deviation of around 32.8, and the data ranged from approximately 120 to 240 deaths per 100,000 people. When calculated, the southern states had a mean of 179 deaths per 100,000 people. The next step is to use this information to analyze why the southern states have a higher mean of deaths from heart disease. For example, the South is known for its southern diet. It is known to be rich in fat, for example, fried foods, processed meats, and sugary drinks. This can clog the arteries in the heart, increasing blood pressure, straining the heart, and causing heart disease. We can also analyze demographics, such as prominent cultural backgrounds and how ethnic foods may affect the risk of heart disease. For instance, southern USA has a high density of Hispanics. If their ethnic food is rich in fats and cholesterol, the risk of heart disease is greater, which may increase the number of deaths in the region. Another thing that we found is that according to the American Human Development Index, 15 of the 23 southern states have the lowest HDI levels in the USA, which measures health, education, and income. With low income, citizens may be compelled to buy more cheaper, more processed foods, as previously mentioned. These foods are very high in fat, which may explain why deaths from heart disease are more prevalent in these states. It is also important to examine and interpret this data in order to take preventative measures before it is too late. This can include changing diet to leaner, healthier foods, or advocating for the government can provide more assistance to struggling families or provide or cheapen the cost of healthier food choices.
For interesting fact number 2, we discovered that as the adult obesity rate increased in the different states of the USA, the number of deaths due to heart disease per 100,000 people increased as well. In addition, as the median income decreased, the obesity rate and number of deaths both increased.
In this graph here, we can see that the adult obesity rate and number of deaths from heart disease are compared, with the data extracted from each state. You can see that the graph has a moderately strong positive correlation, which indicates that as the obesity rate increases, the number of deaths per 100,000 people increases as well. This is represented by the correlation over here at around 0.65.
Compared the median income and number of heart disease deaths for each state. The data has a moderate negative correlation represented by the negative 0.49. This information suggests that as income increases, the number of deaths per 100,000 people decreases.
Now we made another comparison, and we looked at when comparing the income and adult obesity rate of each state. You can see here that the data has a moderately strong negative correlation. This is showing that as income increases, obesity rate decreases as well, and you can see that the correlation coefficient is around negative 0.67.
With all three of the previous graphs put together, we can visualize how income level, obesity rate, and number of heart disease deaths compare. As you can see, the states with the highest median income, the red-orange dots, have lower obesity rates as well as lower number of deaths. On the other hand, the states with lower median incomes, the purple-blue dots, have higher obesity rates and number of deaths. Therefore, we can conclude that median income has an adverse effect on obesity rate and number of deaths.
This relationship reveals how socioeconomic status can have effects that extend beyond financial difficulties. As previously mentioned, people who have a lower income may buy more processed foods because they are relatively cheaper than healthier alternatives. Fast and processed foods are very rich in fat and high in calories. Excess calories are stored in the body as fat, which causes weight gain, increasing the obesity rate. As weight increases, strain on the heart increases, which causes heart disease. Therefore, the number of deaths may increase, as we can see. On the other hand, states with a greater median income tend to have a lower obesity rate, as well as lower number of deaths from heart disease. This may be due to factors that include access to healthier, more expensive ingredients, lower stress level due to financial stability, and access to health or fitness centers, or even the ability to afford treatment if diagnosed. This information can be used by the government when discussing how to allocate funds for assistance, as they will be able to see that chain reaction that financial stability can cause. They can also allocate funds to school cafeterias to provide healthy meals for little or no cost. In addition, it can be used as a method to spread awareness of the importance of healthy eating to encourage preventative methods, rather than treatment after diagnosis, which is also cheaper for citizens, seeing as medical bills accumulate very quickly. The food industry can also use this information to help create meals that satisfy nutritional needs but use cheap everyday ingredients.
To conclude our presentation, we'd like to go over some of the main points that we discussed. By combining all of this data, it can be concluded that in Canada, females of the age 90 or over have the highest mortality rate caused by heart disease. Also, males are at higher risk of dying from heart disease at a younger age.
In addition to this, in the USA, citizens of the southern states have a higher risk of dying from heart disease than those living in the northern states. Also in the US, people with a lower income have an increased risk of obesity, which also increases their risk of developing and dying from heart disease.
Here is our Works Cited page. Thank you so much for listening to our presentation on heart disease, and we hope you learned something about who is affected by heart disease.